You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster, Joe Benazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from Cboe. The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
Welcome back to your favorite bi-weekly source. I know it's my favorite. Hopefully it's your favorite bi-weekly source for all things options related. Yes, we're talking about the Option Block. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which all of you folks are mainlining. Couple of reminders here at the top of the show. Of course, if you want to join us live, you want to check out all the cool exclusives, everything else, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. A little bit challenging to do the live today. Why is that, listeners? I sound a little bit different because I'm coming to you live from down the street, from studio adjacent here in Chi-Town. Why is that? Well, because the Flowmaster's in town. It's always fun to get together, have some spicy pickles, and talk some markets. So I'm joined today by our good buddy, the Flowmaster, a.k.a. Mr. Henry Schwartz. Not from Cboe East, but from Cboe proper today. Mr. Flowmaster, how are things? I guess I shouldn't ask how are things, because I can see them for myself. So how are things with you, sir?
Things are great. I'm in town because we're having a global derivatives summit. So we've got associates in from Europe and Asia and New York and Chicago, of course, really running through kind of all of the products that Cboe has listed and has coming up listing, all the economics, the market trends. It's really been great to see everybody. And you know, actually, I got here for an interesting day because we've had some pretty wild market swings. We'll see how it goes over the next hour while we're talking, but plenty of fireworks going on out there. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, this is looking pretty spicy here. And then also joining us for a very spicy day, beaming in appropriately enough. You can't drag him out of his domain in St. Charles without Wildcats and the promise of a Skippy's Euro. None other than Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the show to you as well, sir. I guess you stopped buying.
Well, I think it's an exciting time in the market. We are up 40 points in roughly 20 minutes. I mean, this is, oh, wait, I need to expand my screen a little bit. Oh, wait, okay, got it. Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, good to be here indeed. As we keep on rolling, listeners, it is time to enter the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for The Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to The Trading Block, the portion of the show where we surprise, break down what the heck is trading out there. And this is another one, listeners, where, again, if you wait 5 minutes, you've got a very different market than what we had just even coming into the start of the show. When I was heading in to the Cboe proper studio here, listeners, the markets were green. Everyone was celebrating the post-NVIDIA euphoria. We also had some decent jobs data out here as well. So all of that was conspiring for the markets firmly in the green, and VIX cash kind of hanging out unched at about a 21.5, up about a tenth of a point from where it was on our last show on Monday. VVIX was at about a 111, also unchanged. Fast forward the roughly 20 odd minutes it took me to get down here, listeners, and we have a very different tale unfolding in the markets right now. S&P now off 0.5%, Dow off 1/3%, NASDAQ off nearly 0.75%. VIX cash, listeners, just getting punched to the upside since I left the studio proper, nearly a 27 right now, 26.95. So my goodness. Apparently, the euphoria everyone had over NVIDIA coming to the market's rescue and a little bit of payroll love, all of that was apparently way overdone. Mr. Flowmaster, I need to dig into this data a little bit more here, but this is absolutely wild stuff. I did not expect this on the tape today. What is catching your eye in a absolutely wild second half start of the session, sir?
You know, there was a serious relief rally on NVIDIA numbers being good and, you know, basically kind of quelling some of those fears about valuation concerns. And, but really, like, about an hour and a half ago, we kind of fell off of a cliff. And to see VIX approaching 25 when literally, an hour and a half ago, it was basically approaching the 20 handle, maybe even going to dip below 20. That's a big move. So there's a lot of people digging into it. I'm pulling the data right now to kind of see if there's any decent sized 0DTE positions opened in SPX that we might have blown through. As you know, I think sometimes the gamma exposure hype is a bit that it's a little bit of hype. However, I do believe large positions can kind of can captivate people's attention and possibly get them to do some trading. So, the truth is we've kind of mellowed out now, down about 0.5%, as Mark said. It seems like this kind of the sharp sell-off seems to have kind of leveled off a bit, but it's an interesting one. I don't know what changed in the last 2 hours, but sentiment certainly shifted, and we've seen some big sell-offs. And one of the groups that I talked to is really pointing at the crypto space, and I actually looked at Strategy. It used to be MS MicroStrategy, now it's just Strategy. That stock, okay, is off is about $300 off its highs. So you probably remember it wasn't long ago that everybody was talking about how it was a perpetual money machine going up because every time they basically bought more crypto, they got the market cap increased by more than what they'd spent. But it was also noted that would work exactly the same way on the downside, and kind of seems like that's what we got. And I think the real question is there any additional fallout if Strategy gets into a liquidation phase? I guess we're going to see.
Everyone's been waiting for a while for that perpetual motion machine to potentially run out of gas, and who knows? Maybe it looks like it might potentially have done just that. I actually know what really happened. Uncle Mike started prepping for the show, and he forgot to keep hitting his buy orders, and that's what turned us to the dark side. Uncle Mike, what do you have to say for yourself? You must have been celebrating, you and the cabal, popping bottles earlier this morning, and then you start prepping for the show, and again, it's on you. We all fell out of bed.
So we are literally up 60 points in the last half hour. This is just very tempting to just want to give up my whole career and become an S&P E-mini day trader with all of this. Yeah. So this has just been a fascinating day all around, and I'm very curious to hear if there is any data on what's happening with the 0DTEs, and if people are just buying puts with what's going on with everything. Because just looking at the market and the day itself, The S&P 500, we open at 6750. So we open at 6750. That's up roughly 108 points, something like that. And I'm sorry, 6740 rather. So we're up 100 points on the open. We go up to 6770, so we're up 130 points at one point in time. We then drop all the way down from 6770 to 6570, so it's a 200-point move in the S&P 500 from 9:30 to 11:45. So in 2 hours, we dropped 200 points, and then we come up a little bit, and then I always like to joke about the option block factor, how we can make the market rally. We're from 11:45, which is 15 minutes before the show, till 1 minute ago. Now it's starting to come down again. We've rallied over 60 points in the. I'm not typically a daily chart watcher, but this is just too much entertainment for me not to watch, or too fascinating for me not to watch. I'm probably going to be glued to my daily chart, my 3-minute price bars the rest of the day. This is insanity. But in the overall market as to what's happening, of course, NVIDIA is the big story with the earnings of everything. The market's going to be saved, and everything is awesome again, as the old Lego movie theme song used to say. But apparently, once everything's awesome, people wanted to take their profits. But now the market's going down, people want to buy again. So it's quite crazy, to say the least. In terms of some other names besides NVIDIA that are making big moves today, Google's one that's caught my eye. Google closed yesterday at roughly 292. It got up to 306 today at one point. It's still up on the day. It's at 295 and some change right now. So that's one thing that's definitely catching my eye. Netflix has been coming down lately. So Netflix had its stock split. And though, for those of you that weren't aware of its stock split, that were looking at Netflix the other day when it opened a 90% drop and didn't know it had a stock split. Well, hopefully you knew it had a stock split. But just looking at Netflix over the course of the last month, it's actually going down. It's not allowed to do that if you're a Netflix holder. It was at 124 roughly a month ago. It's at 107 today, all split adjusted, of course. So that's another name that's catching my eye of something that's coming down. NVIDIA is actually down on the day now. It's down 1%, down $2 at the 184 level. It got as high during the trading day as 196. And then Palantir down 4% on the day. So maybe Palantir thinks that it's a ride downward now in our dueling battles of Palantir versus NVIDIA. Uber's another one that's catching my eye. Uber's down almost 6% on the day. So we have that. Microsoft has been selling off a little bit lately as well. It's only down 1% on the day today, but it has been selling off a bit lately. So there's some things that are happening right now, and maybe NVIDIA is not going to save the market, but I will end, before I end, silver and gold, because I do talk about them still, even though I don't have near the size of silver position as I did a month ago. But silver is down a little over 1% on the day. Gold's down 0.4%, so nothing major. Bonds are relatively flat. So apparently the Fed's not the big bonds are not in play right now. We may pause in December. We may lower rates again. Who knows? But in the future, I think when Trump gets his new man in, so to speak, I think that's going to be pretty interesting with where interest rates go. And I will end with the news that might be shocking to some folks, but Bitcoin's actually down 2.5% on the day. And that's what I'm seeing.
All right, we are seeing a lot of madness out here on the screens today, listeners. I'm going to do my best to try to keep up with some of it for you here, even though we are playing fast and loose on the fly here, listeners. Like I mentioned, markets are still just absolutely in wild territory out here. Let's kick things off. Let's check in really quickly as we're coming into this portion of the show, because things are moving that quickly. S&P is off about 0.45%, NASDAQ off about 0.7%, and the Dow off about a little under, I should say, 0.25%. VIX cash now flirting with a little bit north of the 25 handle out there. Let's start off. Let's go out to the land of VIX options. As you could imagine, it's a pretty banger day out there in VIX land today, listeners. It was already, before I even got here to the studio, it already had done almost a day's worth of paper out there. And coming into this portion of the show, we're at a little north of about 1.15 million contracts. So again, already having done about a day's worth of flow out there in VIX land. If you're wondering what the hot trades are out there today, looks like at least it was a DEES 2530 vertical, which certainly looks fairly prescient now, and up about 100,000+ times earlier this morning. Looks like prices around 37 cents, somewhere in that ballpark. Now, there is OI on those strikes, so somebody could be taking those off as well. But fascinating stuff nonetheless out there. Listen, are you a fan? You like that? Are you a buyer, or are you sold to you for 37 cents for that vertical? You know what? We asked you folks before the start of the show. We said, are you down for that spread? And interestingly enough, probably a little bit of recency bias, but 57.1% of you said you wanted to buy that. Certainly today is the day where maybe you want to have one of those in your back pocket. Or we'll see if the calm kicks in and the turnaround starts. Maybe you wanted to already have bailed on that thing, and traditionally upside in VIX is short-lived. So we shall see how this works. Sold to you 43% out there, looking to take your 37 cents and get the heck out of Dodge. Well, let's get the heck out of VIX and into SPY, shall we? SPY, you can probably guess, probably a pretty hot banger day. It usually is after NVIDIA earnings already, and now it's just off to the races. It had done about 7.6 million contracts as I was heading over to Cboe proper. Listeners, add another 4 million to that, 11.6 million contracts out here in SPY land today. Just absolutely wild paper. If you're wondering, the ADV is about 9.8 million. So yeah, we are well north of that at this point, listeners. We might be at this point, who knows? We might be heading for some record territory if we continue on this clip here. But I'll let the Flow Master speak more about that in a little bit as we keep on rolling out to the S. The S also already pretty much doing about a day's worth of paper, 4.1 million contracts already. The ADV about 4.4. So unless the S falls out of bed for the second half of the session, we are going to have just some absolutely banger numbers out there. So Uncle Mike asked about 0 day. Let's check in, because sometimes on these wild whipsaw-y type of days, sometimes folks get a little bit spooked and they don't dive into the 0 day, or sometimes they dive in extra hard. Let's see what we're getting today. Looks like the answer is 19 of your 20 top SPX strikes right now are all going the way of the dodo today. The lone exception is number 19, 28,000 of the 54 half puts going away in January. So outside of that, it's all 0 day all the time. The hot strike out there right now, it's the 6,800s. They went up 64,000 times today, listeners, for an average price looks like about $2.13, which right now, if you're still riding those bad boys and you bought them, maybe a bit of an ouchie. Out to small caps we go, listeners. IWM already on fire as well. It was at 1.6 million contracts as I started heading over here. Yeah, it's at 2.65 million. So it's added a full additional million contracts just in the time it took me to come over here and fire up the machines. The ADV 1.8 million. So again, flirting with some nigh on record numbers here if we continue this pace for the rest of the day in small caps. And let us not forget about everyone's favorite, the Qs. The Qs were looking spicy by the time I came over here. They were already north of 4 million, about 4.15 million, and add another little over 2 million listeners, 6.35 million contracts on the tape in the Qs right now. I guess an ADV of just 5.4 million. So absolutely wild stuff out here, listeners. Now, the question I have sometimes, is it a wild day on the single name front when all macro hell is breaking loose in the market? And the answer right now looks like it's fairly decent. Cost you 470,000 contracts to break into the top 10 today. Listen, I get you to our old pal SoFi. SoFi right now, listeners, hanging out, turning to the dark side at about 26 even, off about 70 cents or about 3% on the day. So SoFi, after having hit that much ballyhooed 30 handle multiple times and broken through it multiple times, now coming back to earth a little bit. Henry stopping for a fun little social media photo here. Number 9, we've got our old pal, the Amazonians, coming in already. At number 9, we're already over half a million contracts, 528,000 contracts for our good pals, the Amazonians. Let's see, where is Amazon hanging out right now? Amazon hanging out 219.60, off a little over $3, or about 1.3%. So not exactly an explosive day to the downside yet for the Amazonians. But again, I say yet, listeners, as we get to number 8, the artist formerly known as Facebook. It's Meta, 536,000 contracts on the tape for them. Meta, 589 and a third, off about $1 right now. They were as high as 606 and 3/4 earlier in the session, though, just to give you some frame of reference for how much the worm has turned. Speaking of the worm turning, looks like the worm, this is what Flowmaster was talking about. The worm has turned pretty sharply for this name. This is our old pal, the Monster, aka MSTR, putting up 610,000 contracts today for the number 7 spot. Strategy, they are coming for it today. 176.20, off about 10 and a third, or about 5.5%. So, my goodness, the Monster not exactly looking particularly monstrous anymore, listeners. As we keep on rolling to number 5. Actually, no, let's go. Yeah, number 6 is our old pal AMD. AMD looking pretty hot out there today. Already at number 6, we're 750,000 contracts. That's what AMD has put up right now. AMD selling off about $10.5, 213.12, off about 4 2/3% for the number 6 spot. Let's keep rolling to number 5, listeners. It's our old pal Alphabet. Alphabet, 678,000 contracts on the tape for them. Alphabet hanging out right now, actually rallying today. So they still are basking in that Warren Buffett glow. 294.80, up about $1.86, or about 2/3%. They were as high as 306.5 earlier today, though. So bear that in mind as you're looking out here. Number 4, our old pal, one of the newest additions to the Cboe, what is it, the Super 10, Mag 10 index out there, listeners. It's our old pal, Palantir. Palantir putting up 839,000 contracts today, listeners. So a pretty hot day out there for Palantir. Palantir trading, wow, a 150 handle, 158 exactly, off 7 1/3, or about 4.5%. We haven't seen a 150 level in Palantir in some time, so that's kind of interesting. Then coming in at number 3, we got our old buddy, the Fruit Company, coming in right around 850,000 contracts for the number 3 spot. Apple right now, 268.5. So even with all this red, Apple is barely off 4 cents, listeners. Of course, you look at the high for today, 275.43. So it has come off a bit from its intraday high out there. As we keep on rolling to number 2, you know what it is. It's Tesla, listeners. Actually starting to rally a little bit right now. 404 3/4, up about 3/4%, or about 0.2%. Did get a lot hotter earlier in the day, got up to 428, almost 429 out there. So an absolutely wild day for Tesla. Tesla already putting up 2.66 million contracts. That means the big dog out there today, listeners, you expect it, you know it. It's the day after their earnings. How could it not be? It's NVIDIA, 5.02 million contracts out there. Now, before you ask, is that a record? No, Tesla, we've seen NVIDIA do a lot more, over 11 million contracts. So, of course, it could be on pace for that today if it continues this second half of the session. NVIDIA right now, 184 2/3, off about nearly $2, or about 1% on the day. So absolutely wild stuff. A challenge just to keep up with it, listeners. You know, we had NVIDIA yesterday, but some other names were popping off this week as well. If you want to check out the earnings move results, and earnings season reports, you can find all that over there on the website. Walmart was looking pretty good earlier today. They were rallying. We have an earnings move results report for them today, listeners, as well. They're popping off before the bell. They were at about the par level almost exactly when they were heading into their announcement. They were pricing in 4.8%. They were at about 107 when we ran this report. So they're up a little over 6% on the day, and they're still hanging out there at about 107. So Walmart apparently putting in their 45th consecutive quarter of growth, or something ridiculous along those lines, listeners. If you're wondering what NVIDIA was doing, it was at the time, it was at pricing in about 7%. It was literally unched when we ran this report earlier today. Obviously, right now, The worm has turned a wee bit out there. It's off about a little over 1%. So right now, still premium sellers are winning that battle in NVIDIA. We'll see if that continues as the day continues out here. Let's look at the rest of some of our names out here, listeners. We've got Baba popping off next week. We've got Burlington, Uncle Mike's favorite, Intuit today after the bell. They were at 650 and 2/3 when we ran this report. They were pricing in about $39. In the past, it moved about $38. So $1 worth of extra juice. If you want to see all that for yourselves, you know where to go, theoptionsinsider.com. Click on the options news and articles tab. Right now, hanging out at about 109% for this season. So an absolute certified banger. But you know it's always a banger, listeners, when the Flowmaster joins us on Thursday for a little bit of the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we get weird, we get wild, and we unleash the Flowmaster, who always, he seems like he has extra superpowers when he's in the mothership here, listeners, because he has access to all of this cool stuff. Let's kick it off here with looks like a newcomer. This is Garrett Motion Inc., ticker symbol GTX, trading a little bit shy of $16 right now, $15.94, off about a third of a dollar today. So not exactly a banger day for them on the year, though. It's been a heck of a year. They must have whispered the magical letters of AI, because they are up 103%, $8.11. So it's been a hell of a year, including a good month or so. They rallied from about $12.50 all the way up to, they got up to $17.90 in late October, have drifted lower a little bit from there, but still pretty much about a $5 pop in the stock. Off of good earnings, maybe a takeover, who knows? Either way, wild stuff. This is a company that looks to reduce emissions for turbo, hybrid, and electrified operations. So there you go, listeners. Mr. Flowmaster, what did you spot in this one? This looks like a kind of name where people want to buy some calls. Is that what we're seeing?
Well, yeah, it's interesting, and to look at the market action today. Which is really pretty interesting from super high to almost a 3% reversal, and it actually looks like we could hit about 100 million contracts today. Right now we're on pace for about 95 million, but if we get some more kind of volatility, we could see things. We could be in the top 5 volume for sure. It does kind of feel like things are smoothing out a bit though, so maybe it's going to die off, but. GTX, yeah, I do not know. I think possibly they're in advertising. I don't follow the name very well, but the option volume is 3 times normal, and the trade that caught my eye happened at 1:00 New York time. So I don't think Garrett kind of swung the kind of size that we saw in the S&P. But the trade is a buyer of 3,500 D16 calls. 16 cents, actually traded on Cboe, tied to a block of stock. So this was tied to 175,000 shares at 1577. But using that open close data, which we have in Trade Alert and available at our data shop, you can actually see definitively that on the call side it was a customer buyer. Given the kind of the action in this stock, this really does look to me like a stock replacement kind of trade. There were another 1,000 that traded for 60 cents outright about 10 minutes later, and that was a straight up buyer via sweep. So I don't know if it's the same customer or not. My guess is kind of probably, but this one I actually took a little bit of a long position in the stock itself, just because it's a $16 stock, and it is a bullish sign on a tape, which right now kind of shows a bit more concern than what we were seeing this morning. So it's hard to find the kind of speculative bullish kind of call buying that I generally like to look for in terms of odd block trades when you're having kind of a a day where VIX is up sharply and market's selling off. But it wouldn't surprise me actually if we kind of end up just flat today, because SPX right now is off 40 points. We were up 130 points earlier this morning. And VIX is kind of back off its highs a bit, 25-ish. It's an interesting market.
Definitely not boring if you're hanging out on the zero DTE front. Listen, it's a lot to sling out there, or on the VIX front for that matter. Let's keep rolling out to a name we haven't talked about in a while. And this symbol sounds weird, it's because they're in the midst of changing it, listeners. This is Topgolf Callaway, ticker symbol MODG, MODG. It's just a wild ticker. As you recall, Callaway bought Topgolf. It was going to be kind of a revolutionary thing for their business. It turned out people who go to play Topgolf don't really buy golf clubs after this, want to go play Topgolf. It's like you go bowling, you don't buy a bowling ball after usually. So I think that didn't really work out for them. They are going to spin off the Topgolf portion, it sounds like, in early 2026 and change their ticker. It looks like to a more appropriate, I think, CLY or something in that ballpark. So for now, we're stuck with MODG. MODG up about $0.50 today, or nearly 5%. So MODG looking good today. On the year, it's been a bit of a struggle, but they are up about $1 2/3, or about 20.5%. They did sell off in the Great Nadir back in April to looks like about $5.50, somewhere in that ballpark. And since then, they've been slowly climbing. They got up to about this level, 980, almost exactly in July. And then they've kind of been flirting around this level seemingly ever since. They had a nice little pop recently up to about 1160, it looks like, last week, perhaps off good earnings or the news they're going to spin off this Topgolf and be done with it. They did sell it for $1.1 billion. Yeah, okay, so they did find a buyer for Topgolf. So that's probably what popped the stock. And now coming back down, looks like the other side to 980, where we find ourselves today. Mr. Flowmaster, Topgolf, they were all excited. Callaway was going to revolutionize their company. It was going to change their name. That's how much they thought it was going to be an impact. It was going to bring all the kids into golf, because kids don't golf anymore. Mr. Flowmaster, what happened?
Well, I don't know what happened to the stock, but I do know what happened in the options. We see a buyer of 5,000 of the D's 12.5 calls around 12:30 when the stock was 963. Maybe about maybe a buyer 5 minutes later for a bit more. Based on the fact that average daily call volume, average daily total volume in the name is only 1,200 contracts, and so today we've got 6,700 calls and a whopping 4 lot in the put side, and it's really over 6,000 of them are these D's 12.5 calls. It is opening. It is a buyer. It's juiced the implied vol up about 3 points to 74. It only trades 3 million shares a day on average as well. So just those calls alone are probably equivalent to about 500,000 shares of stock. So it's an interesting, it's a bullish kind of setup. I don't know if there's a catalyst or something somebody's looking for, but again, like I said, on a red day, and this buy and the one we were just talking about before in GTX, they both kind of happened after the sell-off. So we talk about often, shakeups are great. Shakeups, especially where people dump everything, where you just see kind of like an across the board risk off, all assets, basically people liquidating good stocks to cover their losses in bad stocks. That's the capitulation that that traders wait for. I'm not saying that we're seeing it, this little bit of a, fine. We were up 2% and now we're down, almost 1% or half of that. That's not, that's a little bit dramatic when you're kind of looking at it intraday, but it's possible if we end up flat or even down 0.5%, it'll kind of get chalked up and like, okay, yeah, market had a move that was within the expected volatility, and with VIX, even coming in this morning with VIX over 20, basically rule of 16 gives you a move. Most of your moves are going to be kind of in that close to 1% range. So and that's a close to close kind of concept, not really a intraday. So anyway, but I don't know if I don't think I would get into this stock. But It is certainly a bullish sign in Topgolf on a red day.
Yeah, it is a weird choice to buy upside in this one so near dated when the obvious catalyst is done. They just sold the thing that's been dragging on them actually, which is Topgolf. So yeah, that deal's done. I don't know what they're specking on before the end of the year, but maybe if you want to join the upside spec party in everyone's favorite Mod G listeners, then have at it. As we keep on rolling, let's squeeze in one more here. Let's go out to a name we haven't talked about in a while here either. This is News Corp Class A, a ticker symbol NUSA, NWSA. Trading right now right around $25, off a little over $4, about 420 or about 14%. Actually, that's on the year, is off $4. Today is kind of unched on the year. On the year, though, a bit of a different story, off a little over $4 or about 14.5% on the year. So obviously, they can't whisper the magic letters of AI out here. They were trading about $29 a year ago, so not great. They did sell off to a little bit below this level earlier this year in April, $24, pretty much exactly before rebounding. And they got as high as looks like about 31.60 back in September before kind of falling off a cliff post September into October and beyond. So interesting stuff out there. They did just announce a $1 billion stock buyback program. So maybe that's part of what's driving some of the flow out here. We shall see. What do we spot out here in the Flowmaster's favorite News Corp Class A listeners? How about some April upside to the tune of the April 30s? These were the pretty hot option coming into earlier today before the market fell out of bed. It was the April 30s. We first noticed a block of them going up, 3,206 of them. They came in, said, April 30s, how are they? They got 35 cents at 60. They said, I will pay 60 cents, good sir, 3,200 times. About an hour or so later, they came in 1,400 more for 60 cents and so on and so forth. A total of 10,000 had traded by the time we headed over to the studio here. Let's go check in really quickly and see if even more of these bad boys. So still about 10,000 of these have traded on the day. If you're curious, by the way, listeners, not much else going up today. That in and of itself is 39 times the ADV for News Corp. So that is a sizable trade from a News Corp perspective out here. Mr. Flowmaster, they announce a big stock buyback, and somebody comes in to say, give me all those April 30s for 60 cents. What are your thoughts? That excites you in News Corp Class A?
Yeah, this is an interesting one, and you found it, not me. 10,000 calls versus 110 puts today, and today's call volume is the biggest call volume I can see going back, until going back a couple of years. So looks like there was kind of something similar maybe in 2023. But it is an interesting one. I mean, the news business, especially kind of under this administration, has been a really interesting segment, and stock at 25-ish, and somebody's all over these April 30 strike calls. That's a vote to that direction. They're gonna need a move of $5 basically for them to pay off. I kind of like the trade. I mean, I don't know. I kind of like it.
Well, it worked for Apple, right? They bought their stock back and the stock's rallied 100 handles. So if it works for Apple, why can't it work for News Corp Class A? Pretty much identical businesses, are they not? Mr. Flowmaster, you think News Corp, you think Apple in the same sentence. And you know what, listeners? I always think of you folks on Thursday. Let's get out to a little bit of the old mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mail Block, the portion of the show where we get wild, we get crazy, and you folks take the reins. Your questions, your comments, your insights. You also give us your thoughts on our question of the week and our questions, really, of the week right now, including right now, give you a quick update on our Dees Vertical and VIX. Still about 57% of you want to buy that bad boy. About 43% want to sell it. So pretty much close to where it was at the start of the show. We also asked you, and this was fascinating, Mr. Flowmaster, I know you're in town, but I guess you didn't get a chance to go to FIA. I did get a chance to sit in on the FIA Prediction Markets panel. This used to be on breakaway room number 3 on floor 5 a few years ago. Now it was standing room only on the main stage. It was kind of wild to see the turnaround in these markets and the level of interest in them. There was a lot of back and forth debates about what is a trade versus a bet, sir. There will be a lot of money spent in the coming years in that gray area over the next couple of years trying to figure out what is a trade versus what is a bet at the end of the day, and what is the legal definition of both. But that said, someone did chime in with a lot of talk about sports and sports betting. That seems to be where a lot of folks are looking as the opportunity, both to bring in new customers and to maybe try some interesting new products. But the NFL, not a fan of it. The NFL putting out a release recently saying a lot of these wild prop bets that are going on out there are too easy to manipulate and they should be banned. And we've seen that now in baseball, pitchers getting paid tens of millions of dollars, throwing balls in the dirt just to make one prop bet for $6,000 or whatever the case may be. So people taking wild action. So we thought it was an interesting point they brought up on the panel. We thought we'd ask you folks about it. Is the NFL right? Should prop bets be banned, or is this something where event contracts can thrive? And right now, this is the results here, the final results. Almost 3/4 of our audience, 73.3%, agree they want to ban them all, and then only 26.7% disagree. Uncle Mike, have you been following the explosive growth of the prediction markets, especially on the sports side? It seems like that's where all the money is chasing right now. And do you agree with your former employer, the NFL? You think some of these prop bets are getting maybe a little bit too wild, a little bit too much opportunity for manipulation, sir?
So, I mean, sports gambling is both a blessing and a curse to sports, in that it's a blessing in that it creates more interest and more people watch it. And I mean, people have been betting on sports even outside of Vegas for forever. Sports gambling is so unique in that if sports betting was up till a few years ago before it became legal all over the place, you would still see like, what's the line on the Bears Packers game or whatever, and it would show it in the newspaper. When you think about it, it's the same thing as printing the local cocaine price in the newspaper for I don't even know what a pound of cocaine is going for in Chicago versus New York. It's the same thing. They're both illegal, but people did it. And so that is still, and the NFL would know that. The NFL knows that people watch games, that there is a big group of people that watch games because they have money riding on it. It makes it more exciting for them. It can make it fun for them. So that part of it is the good thing. The bad part of it, if you get to the dark side of it and how it can be bad, and it's been bad ever since sports have been going on. I mean, the 1919 Chicago White Sox with the Black Sox scandal, it almost ruined baseball. And so when you have stuff like that, you need to have a fine mix of both of them. So, I mean, as a sports purist, I purposely don't get into betting on sports. I think the last time I did any gambling on any sports, I won an office pool for the NCAA tournament like 12 years ago or something like that. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to quit doing this right now because I'm one of the few people on planet Earth that can say I'm lifetime ahead in sports betting. So I personally feel sports are exciting enough without the betting. But that's just me. I also understand the other side of it, that players wouldn't make as much money. There wouldn't be as many fans, and it does make it exciting for a lot of people. And I don't have any moral objection to people betting on a sports game or anything, but it needs to be controlled in some way if you want to preserve the purity of the game. I mean, I was a diehard Pete Rose fan my whole life. He broke my heart when I found out the truth about things, and I was one of the few people that even defended him when he was denying that he gambled on sports. I believed him. I was very much a Pete Rose fan, and then, like I said, it broke my heart when he said that he actually did bet on baseball. But I mean, the guy should have been in the Hall of Fame before he died. That also breaks my heart that baseball didn't forgive him for what he did. But yeah, I think it needs to be controlled, because if you let something like that get out of hand, it's like a fire. Fire can provide warmth. Fire can provide wonderful things, but if you let it get out of hand, you're going to get burned. So I think it needs to be controlled.
You know what Pete Rose was missing was just a manager or his trainer. He could blame his trainer for making the millions of dollars in bets, and it wasn't him, right?
There you go.
And then he could have, what was it, Otani or whoever who did that. And I didn't make millions of dollars of bets in my own account. It was my trainer. That's a good way to get out of it. Just speaking of getting out of, or maybe getting into some fun stuff. Our actual question of the week right now is along the lines of what we're seeing out here in these wild markets. We said it's been a wild year in crypto, metals, and equities, but there can be only one winner at the end of the day. Gun to your head, if you had to buy and hold and at the money call through the end of next year, this is the caveat, listen, not the end of this year, the end of next year, 2026. Which asset are you choosing? We gave you three choices and the infamous other: Bitcoin, gold, and the old SPX. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, which way are you going? And more importantly, which way do you think our audience is going?
Well, first, I just want to let Mike know that cocaine in Chicago is currently about $20,000 a kilo.
Ooh, good to know.
They need to start posting that in the paper. That'd be useful.
Yeah. So, I think that I don't know. I kind of think our listeners might be buying going for this crypto dip. To see Bitcoin under I believe it's around $85,000 right now. I know there are some true believers out there. Personally, I would nibble at equities. Probably avoiding the super high flyers like Palantir. I actually already have a slug of that I haven't gotten out of, but I would not be adding to these things that are trading at hundreds of times earnings. I would say equities for me and crypto for our listeners.
Mr. Uncle Mike, do you agree with that? Equities for you and crypto for the listeners? Maybe you're going to take a pound of cocaine as your choice.
Yeah, definitely equities for me, and I'm going to go with gold for our listeners. I think they're wanting the continuation of gold. I'm going to guess that.
Well, right now the Flowmaster has his finger on the pulse. 44% going Bitcoin, the old BTC. Close number two though, 36% for the precious stuff, gold. Only 16%, Uncle Mike, want to dip their toes in the S&P right now. So they are saying no mas to the SPX and SPY. And then 4% for other. We've had a bunch of write-ins, including some long-term VIX, which I thought was kind of interesting. Let your voice be heard at Options is the place to go as we keep on going around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where things get weird. Things get wild. And you know what, listeners? Forget what I said earlier about the sell-off mitigating. This is one of those days where the Around the Block is more important perhaps than ever. And also, we could be doing the Around the Block every 5 minutes for the rest of the day, and it would be wildly different every time. Right now, a snapshot at the end of the show, listeners. I said the sell-off might be mitigating earlier. Reverse that. The S&P off over 1%, about 1.25% right now. Dow off about 0.75%. And NASDAQ off about 1 2/3%. VIX cash hanging out 25 2/3. Let's go out to the Flowmaster first, as he is about to infect me with botulism and hantavirus here in the minor studio. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, what are you keeping an eye on until your next appearance next week, provided you survive, sir?
I will be fine. I'm going to kind of see how today shakes out. It's really interesting. And I will give a lesson to our listeners. I came in short some Tesla puts this morning from last week, about a week ago. I closed them out when Tesla was up about $20 because they basically had eroded down to about $1. And these expire tomorrow. But I said, you know what? That's enough. I'll take the money off the table. And I'm glad I did. Tesla's back to 398 on this sell-off. So I will be watching kind of the macro picture. And also we have a start date for our Mag 10 index options and futures December 8th. So I'll be continuing to kind of talk about that. I mean, the fact that, we've got these crazy moves in Palantir and NVIDIA today, or just big moves. I don't know if you'd call them crazy given kind of the moves that they had to the upside. But I think that'll be a really interesting product. We're not going to have daily options on day one. We have to file for those. It might take a few extra months. But I think that, starting to get comfortable with how that index works is going to be useful for kind of anybody that's active in the market.
September 8th. That's fairly soon. So I got a feeling you're going to be back in Chi-Town a few more times between now and then, sir.
Most likely.
All right. So hopefully with your flu shot in hand, sir, as we keep on rolling out to the hinterlands of Chi-Town. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what are you keeping an eye on till your Monday battle with the Rock Lobster for trivia, sir?
Oh, the Monday battle. I mean, quite honestly, I'm watching the daily 3-minute price bars right now just because it's fascinating to watch. But I think we need to watch that. I think we also just need to continue to keep an eye on NVIDIA. The fact that it was up so much from earnings, and then that a lot of times people will say that a lot of times the first move is the wrong move, and that's what it's looking like right now, just to seeing if that can continue. Watching that, and then watching to see if silver and gold have anything to say about what's going on.
Yeah, 6,500 now in the S&P. We haven't seen that level in a little bit out here, listeners. So wild stuff. But that is going to do it for us on this Cboe proper edition of the option block. I will be back in a little bit in the proper studio here in Chi-Town with some guy named Uncle Mike to probably talk some metals and some other fun stuff on TWIFO. So stay tuned for that. If you're listening on demand, just hit next on your device of choice. Should be there waiting for you. But before we get there, let's go around the horn. Mr. Flowmaster, if folks are intrigued, they want to learn all about Mag 10 or all the other cool stuff, where should they go? What should they do, sir?
Just head over to Cboe.com/RMA. That's our data and platforms. Also, Google the Cboe VIX decomp model, and you can take a look at the page showing what is kind of going into the change in VIX on a daily basis. Today's is an interesting one to look at. I have access to kind of intraday version, and you can see, basically the fact that vol was a lot lower, and basically it kind of come off completely across the spectrum in terms of strikes this morning. As we sold off, it was a very kind of clear downside concern. So I still don't really know what's going on. I don't know if anybody does, but this move lower seems to be coming with some concern about the downside specifically, not just increased volatility overall.
Yeah, today would be a great day to have that intraday tool live. If you don't know what we're talking about, listeners, check out Volatility Views. We did a deep dive into that VIX decomposition tool, how it works, what it means, and how you could use it in your own trading. Pretty cool stuff. So check it out. And of course, you know where to go to learn more about all this stuff. Cboe.com is the place to go. And Uncle Mike, sir, where should they go if they want to kick the tires on some Uncle Mike goodies, sir?
Oh, check me out on YouTube. Just put out a new video earlier this week. St. Charles Wealth Management, just type it in. Excuse me. And then you can go to my website, stcharleswealth.com, sign up for an appointment for a phone call if you're looking for a financial advisor who's not afraid of the option product.
He ain't afraid of no options. Check him out, stcharleswealth.com, to learn more. That's going to do it for us. I have to get out of this confined room with the Flowmaster before I die, listeners. Sounds like Uncle Mike somehow picked it up too, so through the wires. That'll be interesting. Back again in a little bit with Uncle Mike on TWIFO, then back again to wrap up our day on the Hot Options Report. But we're back again tomorrow with Dr. Vix and other special guests to talk vol. Got a feeling we're going to have a lot to talk about on Volatility Views tomorrow. And then, of course, we're back again on Monday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com optionsinsider.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.